Hi, Poppy here. I forgot to put on my hat last time. Shame on me. I love my hat. Brent. Brent Figwort. Oh, what a wonderful young man he is. And he works at the Possum Trot Cotton Mill. But on his days off, he likes to go home and relax. But on this day, when he was coming home from work at the cotton mill, and it was a weekend, he noticed that that at the farm of the Lucas farm, that Mrs. Lucas was bringing Mr. Lucas to the car door outside of the house, and he was limping like this, and they were out in the driveway beside the house. And so he stopped and he took an arm and he said, "Well, what happened, Mr. Lucas?" And Mr. Lucas said, I was going to mow my lawn," he said, "and I got everything up, but I had to sharpen the blade first and all this, and I was fiddling around with that, and I sprained my ankle, and that just put a stop to everything." And then so Brent said, "Well, here, let me help you sit down in the car." He was very, very nice to Mr. Lucas. And he said, "I hope everything turns out okay for your ankle." And Mr. Lucas said, "Thank you very much." Well, when they left, then Brent looked up toward the barn and he saw Mr. Lucas's gas lawnmower. It was a push one, sitting outside the barn. So he decided he would go up there and then he saw the blade by it that Mr. Lucas was going to sharpen before he mowed the grass. So Brent went up there and he took it inside the barn to the grinding wheel and he sharpened Mr. Lucas's mower blade for him. Got it really nice, and he looked around in the wall, and then he found a wrench, and then he was able to put that blade back on the lawnmower for Mr. Lucas. And not only that, Brent had some gas in a can out in his truck. So he went out to his own truck, got the gas can, filled up the mower for him. And not only that, he mowed 2 acres for him with that push mower. It was electric, not electric, but gas. But he mowed 2 acres for him while he was gone. Now, Brent is the kind of a guy that doesn't say much. People know he's around, but he's not talkative at all. Sometimes you have to pull things out of him to get him to say something or get an opinion. And so Brent just does things like that. So when Mr. Lucas came home, he found his whole 2 acres had been mowed, and his blade is even sharpened. He could tell by the way the grass was so even. And he was so grateful for that. Well, as Brent was going home, leaving Mr. Lucas's place, it started to rain. And he found this little tiny puppy walking in the rain through Possum Trot, through town, just trotting along, but he was in the gutter, trotting along. And it was a tiny little puppy. And he stopped the truck and he thought, well, where did he come from? There's no houses, or I don't know of anybody nearby. But he took the little pup, and he had a blanket in his truck. So he wrapped the little puppy in a blanket, put it beside, the puppy was shivering and cold, and he just snuggled right into Brent. Oh, he was so grateful. And Brent had an idea. He said, "You just wait, little guy. Let's go visit somebody." Well, he knew of a little girl that had been wanting a puppy. And her folks said, "Well, maybe someday we can." And but Brent took that little puppy over to the little girl. Now Brent had asked around a few places nearby if it belonged to them, and it didn't seem to belong to anybody. But he took it over to the little girl's house, and he said, "Hello, I am Brent, and I know that your little girl has been looking for a puppy, and I was just wondering if she might be interested in this little fella. I found him in the rain, and he was walking in the gutter along the sidewalk on the street, and I know that he's probably hungry and he's cold, and I just wondered, are you looking for a special kind of a puppy? I know you've been looking. Would you be interested in this little guy?" And right away, the little girl, whose name was Lucy, she just, "Oh, my dream puppy." And she just took that puppy and the puppy started licking her like that. Well, they fed the puppy and got him all warmed up and everything. And so that Brent made that family so happy. And he said, "Be sure you take it to the vet, have it checked out, and see if it belongs to somebody, or if there's something, maybe he's got worms or who knows." And they did that, and it turned out that nobody claimed the puppy. So Lucy got her little puppy that she wanted, and the parents loved that little dog too. Well, then, this is quite a weekend. He's supposed to be off for the weekend from the cotton mill. Then he went past Grandpa Mavis's farm, and he saw Grandpa Mavis getting out of his car, and he had his arm in a sling, and he couldn't use his arm. So Brent stopped, and he walked up the long driveway to see Mr. Mavis, Grandpa Mavis. Grandpa Mavis said, "Yeah," he said, "I was getting ready to paint my barn. It needs it so bad." He said that I got my big long ladder up. I put it up toward the hayloft there, and I got out my bucket of red paint and my big old brush, and I leaned too far one way, and the ladder went this way, and I went the other way, and I fell down, and I broke my arm, got paint all over everything at the bottom. And he said, it just turned out to be a disaster. And Brent said, "Oh, Mr. Mavis, I'm so sorry about that." But then Mr. What did I say? Mavis went into the barn, and Brent had an idea. So Brent went over and he cleaned up the mess, the paint bucket, and stood the ladder up again. And he looked around in the barn, and sure enough, there was some more paint in the barn. He had a couple extra gallons. So you know what he did? He went up and he painted Mr. Mavis's barn for him. And it took a couple of days. It took his whole weekend, but he started on it. And Mr. Mavis felt so, he thought, "Oh, you don't have to do this. You don't, just, really, I can wait till my bone heals in my arm." And Brent said, "No, that's okay. I don't mind doing this at all." And you know what? Even though Brent was so quiet, nobody even knew he was around a lot of the times until there was a need, or if there was something that made him come or talk to people. But other than that, he was just a very humble, quiet guy. But look at what he's done for people. He was always at the ready to help somebody. And you know, that's like Jesus. Jesus was not a big blabbery guy that wanted everybody to see him or hear what he had to say or anything. He was not dynamic, and neither is Brent. Not dynamic at all, but he's always there. In fact, I was thinking, Brent, even though he doesn't talk much, he's like the big, strong nail in my living room wall that holds up the picture of Jesus. And that's what Brent is. He doesn't say much, but he holds up the picture of Jesus. And people love him for it. That's all. Bye-bye.